Hello, everybody. This is Derek Lavelle, host of the Open Run Podcast, episode 6. I hope everyone's having a good day. So, today's episode, we're going to be talking about the team that has given me nightmares, that has given me sleepless nights. And unfortunately for the poor timing of this podcast, literally just defeated my Los Angeles Lakers in an epic comeback last night in the Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum playing an outstanding, unbelievable MVP performance. And that's who I actually wanted to start with. But not just Jason Tatum. I want to talk about Jason and Jaylen Brown because I understand we're a little past the quarter mark of the season. And, we're still, a lot of us are still, who are diehard sports fans, are focused on football. But we're past the quarterway mark of the season. And I want to really emphasize is what the Boston Celtics, specifically Tatum and Brown, are doing. They are on an historic, and I'm going to repeat that, historic scoring pace. Okay. Right now, in the history of the NBA, since the merger, which was 1976 and 1977 for our younger listeners, in the highest scoring tandems in NBA history, okay? Number one is the 2019-2020 Houston Rockets with James Harden and Russell Westbrook. They combined for 61 and a half points per game. The next three are the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, where 2000, 2001 is second, where they averaged 57.2 points per game. Third is the 02-03 Lakers, where they combined for 57.2. And then 2001, 2002, Shaq and Kobe, where they combined for 52.4. And then number 5, surprisingly, I was very shocked by this because I think a lot of us would have thought, KD, Russ, maybe a LeBron Kyrie or a LeBron Wade year, or even a Steph KD year. But it actually is the 2006-2007 Denver Nuggets with Melo and Allen Iverson, who combined for 53.7 points per game. But as of right now, in this moment, as we stand pat, the Boston Celtics, this year's Boston Celtics team with Tatum and Brown would be ranked third all time. I'm going to repeat that. Third all time at 56.8 points per game. That is what they are. That's to understand the context. They are being compared to the greatest 1-2 combination in NBA history with Shaq and Kobe, in my opinion. And then James Harden and Russell Westbrook, who one's the triple-double king, and the other is one of the 5 to 7 greatest individual scorers in the history of this game. Like, they are putting up historic numbers. And it's something that I want to highlight too, and what I really want to emphasize here is that after last year's finals, and by the way, after Saturday night's loss, you would think a lot of teams would have taken that punch, that 3-game, when they lost 3 consecutive games after going up 2-1 in the NBA Finals, and you would have thought, hey, they're going to reel back, they're going to fold, they're going to have a down year. Then don't forget, we still have the whole Ime Udoka situation where Ime, where's their head coach, and then, because of the, what went on behind the scenes there, he gets outed, he gets fired, and then they bring in their new coach, and they had all the signs. They had all the excuses in the world of saying, hey, this is just not going to be our year. This is not going to be our year. This is not going to be it. We're going to be a mediocre to maybe a slightly above average team. We might win a first round playoff series, but we're probably going to get knocked out in the second round just because this whole year was just a year from hell. Right? Remember 2 years ago, that was the Atlanta Hawks. Remember, they make a conference finals, expectation increase. What happens last year? They get off to a slow start. They kept complaining about like, hey, we're just waiting for the playoffs. We're waiting for the playoffs. They become a play-in team. They get the 8th seed and they lose to Miami. The 2 years before that, remember the Portland Trailblazers? Remember they make it to a conference finals. Dame and CJ are talking about, hey, we're going to bring home Larry O'Brien to Portland. And then what happens the very next year? Injuries, poor play, and then they lose in the first round the very next year. So this happens, and it's human nature. You reach the mountaintop, and even though you don't win the title, it's hard to gear back up. It's hard to ramp back up after you've been on the biggest stage or one of the biggest stages. And I gotta give a lot of credit to the character and to the mental toughness of Brown and Tatum, because especially Tatum, he was exposed because he played bad. Now we can say fatigue, we can say, the way the Warriors played, because if you watch as the series went on, they pressed them up. They tried to force Tatum and Brown to their left hands. When you ball pressure them, they realize like, hey, they don't have as strong of handles as you would think. And if you just constantly keep swiping at the ball, they're going to lose track of it. They're going to fumble it. They're going to turn it over, or they're going to put up a poor shot. And Tatum, by the way, despite his size last year, he wasn't finishing strong at the rim. He couldn't finish through contact. He couldn't finish through bodies. And immediately what you see this year, and you saw it on display last night specifically, their ability to create space with their ball handling, their ability to get to the rim and finish through contact, especially Tatum. And they have taken a leap, and it's a real leap, and it's a scary leap. Now, this West Coast trip, now look, they won last night, but after Saturday night loss and Tuesday's night loss to the Warriors and Clippers, the writing was on the walls like, oh, maybe this is not the team that we thought. But last night, I think, reaffirmed that when they're clicking, and they've been clicking all year, they're one of the most historic offenses in NBA history. And I just want to give you some numbers, okay? So right now, as we stand pat, the Celtics will be ranked third all time in the history of basketball post-merger in points per game. Currently, they're at 20.3 points per game. The 81-82 Denver Nuggets, ranked number 1, 26.5 points per game. Number 2, same Denver Nuggets, the 1983-1984 season, where they averaged 123.7 points per game. Number 3 would be the same Denver Nuggets, the 1980-1981 season, where they averaged 121.8 points per game. And then 4th is the Boston Celtics. 4th is the Boston Celtics. Now, they're tied for 4th with the 1983-1984 San Antonio Spurs. But that's something that should be really highlighted and really emphasized, is that they are the highest scoring points per game at this moment in the quarter mark, a little past the quarter mark of the season, in the last 35 to 40 years. That no offense, not the 7 seconds or less Suns, not the Steph Curry Warriors, none of those teams where you sat there, not the Daryl Morey Rockets, none of those teams you could arguably put up the amount of points that this Boston Celtics team has. And you probably ask, man, how are they doing this? Yes, Tatum and Brown have the 4th highest scoring average in NBA history, but like that, it just can't be those two. I mean, Shaq and Kobe has 3 of the top 5, and they're not. And their Lakers teams were never this close in the points per game. It's because of their ability to shoot the 3-pointers. Let me give you some more numbers. Okay, first, as of right now, they're currently leading the league in 3-point percentage. Now it's dipped a bit since this road trip, but right now they're at 39.7 points. 39.7 percentage shooting from the 3, which is ranked 20th in the top 20 all time. Right now they're averaging 16.4 3-pointers made per game. Honestly, surprisingly, actually shouldn't be surprising, tied with the Golden State Warriors. But you know who's in the top 5 right now? All time, 3-pointers made. The 2021 Utah Jazz at 16.7, and then the Celtics and the Warriors this year at 16.3. Then the 2018-2019 Rockets are at 4 with 16.1. And then 5 is the 2020-2021 Portland Trailblazers at 15.7. So with that being said, their ability not just to make a lot of threes, but shoot at an extremely high percentage, almost nearly 40% from the field. It's something where when Tatum and Brown are getting doubled, when the defense does collapse, when the defense does shift and try to hedge the court so that they try to get the ball out of Tatum and Brown's hands, their ability, the Grant Williams, the Al Horfords, the Malcolm Brogdon, the Derek White, those guys' ability to consistently make 3-point shots is honestly probably the biggest reason why Tatum and Brown are having the success that they're having, is because you have to pick your poison. If you're a defense, if you're a team, you have to decide, do we allow Tatum and Brown to literally nearly score 60 points combined? And as you saw last night, almost close to 70 to 80 points combined. Or do we say, hey, we're going to let everyone else beat us? We're going to take away Tatum and Brown. We're going to dare everybody else to beat us. And as of right now, they are beating you. And so their offense right now is on such a historical pace, not to mention one last nugget and one last stat for you. They're ranked first all time in free throw percentage in NBA history at 83.9%. Now they're currently tied right now with the 2020-2021 Los Angeles Clippers, who are also at 83.9%. But that shows the completeness of this team, the completeness of this offense, is that their ability to not just put up a lot of points, not only to shoot at a high percentage from 3, which, as we all know in today's NBA, is the lifeblood of an offense, but to ability late in games. That's the big point I want to make here. Late in games, when free throws are crucial. We saw it once, bringing up last night's game. Anthony Davis had a chance to ice the game, missed both free throws, opened the door for Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum makes a clutch shot over LeBron. Game goes to overtime. Celtics win in overtime. Your team's ability to close out games. That's why the Warriors with Steph and Clay were so lethal, and then with KD was just there. It was just impossible to beat. Why? It wasn't because of the firepower. It wasn't just because they had three of the 10 best shooters in the league. It was their ability in close late games. If they had a lead, they were gonna finish you off. Case in point, I vividly remember the 2019 Western Conference Semifinals, Game 6 between the Warriors and the Rockets. Remember, KD went down with that Achilles strain. It just came down to, it's the old school Warriors. And, Steve Kerr has been on the record, said that's his favorite game from the dynasty because it was back against the wall. Everyone counted him out when KD went down. And then remember, Steph put up a goose egg in the first half, didn't score a single point, and then scored 34 points in the second half. And I think 23, if my memory is correct, in the fourth quarter. And go back and look at the end of the game. Specifically, if you have his highlight tape, go back and watch. I think about 6 to 8 of his points of his 34 came off of free throws in the final minute. Because the Rockets, no surprise whatsoever, lackluster and brain dead on defense, kept allowing Steph to get the ball. And what did he do? He got the ball. They fouled him. Shot. It was easy makes, easy 2 shots, easy 2 makes. And then it just extends the lead, or it just keeps them always ahead and makes it impossible for you to come back. And that's what I want to bring up, because I think as the season goes on, once football season's over with, and if the Celtics continue to keep up on this pace, which, by the way, I don't see why they wouldn't be, because just to be honest, defense has taken a step back. Now, I don't know if it's just, guys just trying to get their legs underneath them. Defense is just not a priority in the first half of the season. They kind of like to wait till after the All-Star break to ramp it up a little bit. just because you don't want to burn yourself out because it's a long season. It's an 82 game season, and that's not including the postseason. And if you make it to the finals, you're playing over 100 games. So I understand guys trying to really manage their minutes, manage their energy, manage their effort, but I don't see how this Boston team, if they continue to shoot the way they're shooting from the free throw line, from the field, from the 3-point line. I don't see how their offense can honestly honestly be stopped at this point. Now, this is where it gets interesting. This is where it gets fun because we saw it Saturday night, right? The Warriors meant to have the mental advantage from what they did to the Celtics in the finals. And Boston was coming in hot. They were coming in high. They had all the momentum and they go in and Steph hits a no look three, he does his pattern no look three, and they got punched in the mouth. And the Warriors show that they have the mental advantage. Then they go, then they had to sit on that for 2 days. And then last 2 nights ago against the Clippers, Kawhi, Paul George, those wings just started dominating, started giving them a little problems. Why am I bringing this up? Because Milwaukee has the ingredients with a healthy Chris Middleton. I'm going to repeat this, a healthy Chris Middleton. They have what it takes to really disrupt this offense. Now, the problem is, as we saw last year, Milwaukee needs Chris Middleton because what Giannis did last year was such an underrated superhuman performance. It gets swept under the rug because they lost in 7 games, and obviously they didn't win the title. If Milwaukee was able to squeak by and beat Boston, whether that was in Game 6 or Game 7, they were going to win the title because no one had an answer for Giannis. Giannis was just playing at a superhuman level, and he was the best player in the world then. He's still the best player in the world now because he's playing at such a high level. And I want to see this. They're right now, to me, Boston and Milwaukee are the two best teams in the league by, to me, a wide margin. Now, New Orleans is interesting. New Orleans is a lot. I think it's very fascinating to see. I think they're very intriguing just because their ability, if Zion's able to take a leap, I think their ceiling is just, win a playoff series, maybe be a very tough out in round 2, but it's maybe conference finals the ceiling. The West to me is wide open because of the injuries, because of teams that we didn't expect to make leaps, and other teams kind of just playing mediocre basketball. It's bad basketball. But right now, to me, Boston and Milwaukee are clear head and shoulders the best teams in the league, and they're on a collision course. I personally think. I think of Brooklyn, of Philadelphia, when they get their acts together. Brooklyn has gotten their act together. Philadelphia, whenever they get their act together, they had a good win last night. They could definitely put a scare to both of those teams. That's definitely going to be a tough out. I think both series will go 6 or 7 games, but I just don't see realistically how either. Honestly, Brooklyn's defense is just awful at this point. Now I know statistically, they're middle of the pack. I think they're outside. I think they're 10th right now. And they've had weird blocking numbers this season. But I've gone to games. I'm a season ticket holder, and it depends on what night. And quite frankly, I'm very worried, and I think a lot of Brooklyn fans are very worried with 37 minutes per game. That's how Kevin Durant leads the league in minutes per game. He's playing the most minutes in the league. He's playing one of the most minutes of his entire career. And I think it's something to keep your eye on because he hasn't played since he broke his foot back in OKC in that 2014-2015 season. He hasn't played more than 70 games but once since that time. And so he's gonna get injured. And whether that's a hammy, that's a knee, that's an ankle, he's gonna miss time. And I'm very worried that Brooklyn can afford to have him miss significant time, whether that's 10 to 15 or God forbid 20 games. I don't think they'll be able to weather the storm because, as we saw last year, remember Brooklyn had the best record in the Eastern Conference before Kevin Durant went down with the knee injury, and then guess what happened? They became a playing team, and that's with Kyrie still doing some spot duty. So when you have that, you just see an avenue where Brooklyn's just going to be a round two team that's going to be tough. As for Philadelphia, they have the ingredients to be in the top three to me, but I just worry. I'm sorry. James Harden is a failure in the postseason. It's just plain and simple. We can't Let's not sugarcoat it. He's been a failure in the postseason. And Joel Embiid has quietly been a failure in the postseason because he's either injured, he wasn't in shape, he blamed Ben Simmons for why they lost to Atlanta in game 7. But Joel Embiid sneakily has had some really sketchy playoff games and some playoff series. And sooner or later, it's going to be time for him to put up or shut up because his body has shown. Now, his body has held up pretty good. I think a lot better than all of us expected. But I think there's always that, in the back of your mind, worry that can he survive? Can he play a full, at least like 90 games in an NBA season, counting regular season and postseason, because they're going to need that. The Philadelphia 76ers need Joel Embiid to play between 90 to 100, 105 NBA games in order to win the title. And I just think it's just very difficult to see, to forecast, and to predict that he's going to be able to withstand, his body's going to be able to withstand that. Not to mention, in between the ears and inside his chest, where does he have it in him to be great, to be that all-time great? Because he has the ability, he has the talent. He's a poor man's Akeem Olajuwon, and that's not no disrespect. That's a compliment. I mean, we just saw yesterday that they just named the defensive player of the year after Akeem Olajuwon. So to be called a poor man's Akeem Olajuwon, I think it's extremely. I'm trying to make it extremely a great compliment to him. But he needs to show. He needs to put it. He needs to put his money where his mouth is. He's one of the best trash talkers in the league. He has one of the best. He's one of the best big men, if not in the running to be the best big man in basketball with Nikola Jokic. But at a certain point in time, it's time to show, Joel. It's time to show. It's time to play. Okay. And remember, if I was somebody in Joel's inner circle, I would be like, "Hey, man, you really think Giannis is better than you? Really? That man got 2 MVPs. That man's got a defensive player of the year. That man's got a title and a finals MVP. I just named 5 things you don't have. That guy does not have your ability. That guy does not have your talent. But what you don't have that he does is that work ethic. It's that discipline. It's that toughness to say, I'm going to play through everything. I don't care if I airball a free throw. I don't care if the whole crowd is counting to 10. I'm going to hit this. And if I don't hit it, I'm going to hit it. I'm going to hit it the next time. Even if I don't hit it the next time, I'm going to hit it after that. The mental toughness Giannis has is what I think separates him from pretty much everybody else in the league besides his absolute freakish talent and his ability, his length, his size. But honestly, the West is gonna be just a throw a dart at the wall, and whoever it lands on, that might be the team who goes to the finals. But in the East, man, to me, it's a four-teamer with Cleveland on the outside because they stumbled a little bit since their hot start. The East is very fascinating, man. I'm excited, but honestly, we need to really give respect and pay homage to what the Boston Celtics, specifically Tatum and Brown, are doing. They're doing something historic, and if they maintain this pace, they're going to be considered. I personally think they should be considered one of the greatest offenses in NBA history. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for everyone for listening. Remember, episodes of the Open Run podcast drop every Tuesday and Saturday. We'll be back again Saturday as a part of the Peach Basket Podcast Network. Remember, if you want to go to either hear more of my content or read some of our great contributors, go to the Peach Basket website at peachbasket.net. All right. And I know Open Run, Run It Back will also be coming back on this Saturday around 9 o'clock. So if you have time, if you want to tune in, please do. Thank you so much for listening, and please subscribe, and talk to you guys again on Saturday.